The 1990s weren't just the era of grunge and dial-up. They were the golden age of unleashed speed. Motorcycle manufacturers weren't just chasing performance. They were at war with limits. And somewhere along the way, they stopped asking, "Should we?" and started asking, "How fast can we go?" The result? A decade of machines that didn't just flirt with danger, they embraced it. 160 miles per hour wasn't the finish line. It was where things started getting serious. From Japanese superbikes sharp as scalpels to Italian monsters that roared down city streets, these weren't just fast bikes. They redefined what it meant to build a motorcycle with attitude, edge, and no apologies. And at the peak of this speed revolution, one machine that pushed so far ahead, the entire industry had to sign a speed limit treaty just to keep up. So, ready to step back 3 decades? Let's fire up 10 of the fastest, wildest machines the 1990s ever produced. Just don't blink. Some of these bikes aren't just fast, they're downright feral. Number 10. 1997 Suzuki TL1000S. If there was ever a bike that needed a warning label, it was the Suzuki TL1000S. Built with a 996 cubic centimeter V-twin engine, pumping out 125 horsepower, it wasn't just fast, it was wild. With a top speed of 163 miles per hour and torque that hit like a hammer at mid-range, the TL wasn't interested in playing nice. Crack the throttle in first gear, and the front wheel would lift like it had a mind of its own. Suzuki had set out to build a V-twin sport bike to rival Ducati, but what they unleashed was something altogether more unpredictable. The rotary rear damper, a bold alternative to traditional suspension, turned out to be more ambitious than effective. At high speeds and under hard braking, it made the rear end feel vague and unsettled. It didn't take long before the TL earned a reputation as a widowmaker in a green jacket. In later years, Suzuki detuned the engine and softened the handling to calm its wild streak. But by then, the legend had already been written. The TL1000S became a cult icon, not because it was perfect, but because it was flawed in all the right ways. It wasn't refined, it wasn't polite, but for riders who liked a bit of danger with their speed, the TL1000S was unforgettable and unapologetically alive. Number 9. 1992 Honda CBR 990RR. While most superbikes of the early 90s were chasing raw power, Honda had a different idea: drop the weight, sharpen the handling, and make every horsepower count. The result was the CBR 900RR, a bike that didn't just change the game, it flipped the table over. With an 893 cubic centimeter inline-4 producing around 122 horsepower and a top speed of 164 miles per hour, the numbers were solid. But it wasn't about numbers, it was about feel. Tipping the scales at just 453 pounds wet, the CBR was shockingly light, sometimes over 100 pounds lighter than its competition. That gave it a power-to-weight ratio no one could match. And on the road or track, you could feel it. The CBR 900RR didn't charge, it sliced. Every input felt immediate. Every turn, effortless. It handled like a scalpel in a world full of sledgehammers. Originally designed as a 750, the engine was stretched to give it more punch without losing its balance. Over the years, Honda refined it even further, bumping displacement to 919 cubic centimeters, tweaking suspension and tightening the chassis. It didn't have the brute force of some rivals, but it didn't need it. The CBR 900RR was about control, precision, and confidence at any speed. For riders who valued finesse over flash, this was the superbike they'd been waiting for. Number 8. 1998 Ducati 996 SPS. Some bikes go fast, others make a statement just sitting still. The Ducati 996 SPS did both, without ever raising its voice. Built on the bones of the legendary 916, the SPS wasn't just an upgrade. It was a purpose-built missile dressed in Italian skin. At its heart was a 996 cubic centimeter V-twin, pumping out 124 horsepower and propelling the bike to a top speed of 167 miles per hour. But the numbers were only half the story. What truly set the SPS apart was the attention to detail. Lightweight frame, Showa forks up front, a rear Öhlins shock, and a full Termignoni exhaust that didn't just sound good, it howled with authority. It was aggressive, but refined, brutal, but balanced. The steering was adjustable, the components track-ready, and the ride, tight, precise, unforgiving. This wasn't a bike you hopped on casually. It asked something from you and rewarded every ounce of effort. The SPS was produced in limited numbers, and today, pristine examples can fetch well over $30,000, not just for the performance, but for the legacy. Because long before Ducati became a fashion icon, it was building machines like this: raw, mechanical, beautiful. And the 996 SPS stands as one of its finest, Number 7. 1998 Yamaha YZFR1. By the late 90s, the superbike world had grown big, fast, and bloated. Then came the Yamaha YZFR1, and everything changed. This wasn't just another fast bike, it was a full-blown reset button. Lightweight, compact, and brutally quick, the R1 set a new standard the moment it hit the asphalt. At its core was a 998 cubic centimeter inline 4, paired with a revolutionary stacked gearbox that let Yamaha shorten the engine, pull the mass forward, and tighten the whole chassis. The result? A short wheelbase, a long swing arm, and handling so sharp it felt wired to your nervous system. It was wickedly fast, 168 miles per hour flat out, with 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds and the quarter mile gone in just over 10. But what made it truly special was how it carried that speed, confidently, predictably, and always begging for more. The R1 didn't just outrun its rivals, it made them look outdated overnight. Its sleek, aggressive bodywork, signature blue spot brakes, and razor-edge manners set the tone for what a modern superbike should be. Every bike that came after it owes something to the original R1. And for many riders, this was the first machine that felt less like transportation and more like a weapon with headlights. Number 6. 1990 Yamaha FZR1000EXUP. Before the R1 rewrote the rules, Yamaha had already laid the groundwork with this, the FZR1000EXUP. It wasn't just fast, it was balanced, composed, and deceptively capable. At its heart was a 1002cc inline 4, delivering 145 horsepower through a 5-valve per cylinder setup, an advanced design that gave the engine both high rev freedom and low-end punch. But the real magic was Yamaha's EXUP valve system, which dynamically adjusted exhaust flow to widen the torque curve. That meant smooth, usable power across the rev range, whether you were carving corners or blasting down the highway. Top speed, an impressive 169.8 miles per hour, putting it near the front of the 90s pack. Handling was where the FZR truly shined. Built on the evolution of Yamaha's Delta Box aluminum frame, it felt solid and predictable even at triple-digit speeds. The front end inspired confidence, the brakes were strong, and the whole package came together like a well-sorted missile in a tailored suit. Compared to twitchier rivals like the early Fireblade, the EXUP was more composed, less nervous, more sure-footed. It didn't shout for attention. It didn't need to. Riders who knew. The FZR1000EXUP wasn't just a fast bike, it was a benchmark in control. Number 5. 1996 Yamaha YZF1000R Thunderace. As the FZR1000 reached the end of its run, Yamaha wasn't quite ready to unleash the R1 just yet. So they gave us something in between, a parts bin monster that turned out to be far more than the sum of its bolts. Enter the YZF1000R Thunderace. Powered by a 1003cc Genesis inline-4, the Thunderace delivered a solid 145 horsepower and hit a top speed of 170 miles per hour. Yamaha combined the heart of the FZR1000 with the refined chassis of the YZF750R, creating a machine that could hustle through corners just as confidently as it devoured straightaways. It wasn't light, it wasn't flashy, but it was honest, fast, and surprisingly well-balanced. The throttle response was crisp, the suspension was fully adjustable, and the one-piece blue spot brakes had serious bite. While others chased cutting-edge tech, the Thunderace doubled down on value and rideability, and that's what made it special. In a market shifting toward razor-edge performance, the Ace felt like a brute in a tailored jacket, stable, powerful, and dependable. Riders who didn't care about hype found a lot to love here. It may not have stolen the spotlight, but in the right hands, the Thunderace could still steal the show. Number 4. 1996 Bimota YB11 Superlegera. Few machines capture the word exotic quite like the Bimota YB11 Superlegera. Born in Italy, powered by Japan, and crafted with the kind of obsession you don't find in mass production, the YB11 was as focused as it was ferocious. Beneath its sculpted lines lay the 145 horsepower inline-4, lifted from Yamaha's Thunderace. Only now it was housed in a chassis that weighed nearly 70 pounds less. The result? A superbike that didn't just go fast, it felt fast in your bones. Top speed? 170 miles per hour. But that wasn't the point. This was about intensity. The YB11 featured a hand-welded aluminum frame, 51mm Paoli forks, and race-spec Brembo brakes. Every component screamed performance over comfort. It wasn't built for daily commutes or weekend coffee runs. The seating was aggressive, the suspension stiff, and the handling razor-edged. You didn't ride the YB11 casually, you engaged it fully, or not at all. It wasn't practical, it didn't apologize, and it didn't care. But for those who could tame it, the YB11 delivered something rare, a riding experience that was equal parts violence and art. And that's exactly why it still turns heads decades later. Number 3. 1990 to 1995. Kawasaki ZX11. Before the Hayabusa, before the Blackbird, there was the Kawasaki ZX11. A bike so far ahead of its time, it owned the title of world's fastest production motorcycle for 6 straight years. With a top speed of 176 miles per hour and a 1,052 cubic centimeter inline-4 producing 147 horsepower, the ZX11 didn't just raise the bar, it built a whole new one. This was the first production bike to feature ram air induction, a breakthrough that forced cool air into the intake at high speeds, boosting top-end performance when you needed it most. The result was a bike that pulled harder the faster it went, like a jet engine on wheels, It wasn't the sharpest in the corners. At over 540 pounds dry, it was a heavyweight. But once it was rolling, the ZX11 had an eerie calmness, stable, composed, relentless. It wasn't just built to go fast. It was built to stay fast. Long before electronic rider aids or aerodynamic winglets, Kawasaki gave us this, a machine that could cruise at triple digits all day without breaking a sweat. The ZX11 didn't just lead the speed war, it started it. And for half a decade, no one came close. Number 2. 1996 Honda CBR1100XX Super Blackbird. After years of watching Kawasaki dominate the speed charts, Honda struck back with precision, power, and purpose. The result was the CBR1100XX Super Blackbird, a machine engineered to reclaim the throne and do it with grace. Named after the legendary SR-71 spy plane, the Blackbird didn't just aim to be fast, it aimed to be untouchable. Powered by a 1,137 cubic centimeter inline-4, producing 164 horsepower, it soared past its rival with a top speed of 177 plus miles per hour. That was enough to dethrone the ZX11 and crown Honda as king of the speed wars, at least for a little while. But what made the Blackbird special wasn't just how fast it went, it was how smooth it made speed feel. Dual balancer shafts kept vibration low. The throttle was buttery. The aerodynamics, clean and refined. At triple digits, it felt planted, unshakable, like it belonged there. It was fast, yes, but it was also civil. You could tour on it, commute on it, or disappear down an empty highway like a shadow at dawn. In the arms race of the 1990s, the Blackbird wasn't just a counterpunch, it was a masterclass. And for a brief, shining moment, it was the fastest production motorcycle on Earth. Number 1. 1999 Suzuki GSX1100R Hayabusa. And then came the Hayabusa, not just a superbike, but a thunderclap. When Suzuki unveiled the GSX1300R in 1999, it didn't just beat the Honda Blackbird, it buried it. With a jaw-dropping top speed of 194 miles per hour and a 1,298 cubic centimeter inline-4, cranking out 173 horsepower, the Hayabusa shattered every record and redefined what fast meant. This wasn't just about numbers. The Hayabusa felt like something from the future. Its wind tunnel sculpted body looked almost alien, built to cheat the wind at terrifying speeds. Stability, rock solid, acceleration, relentless. From 0 to 60 in under 2.7 seconds, it launched like a missile and didn't let up. But here's what really sets it apart. It was so fast, so dominant, that it forced the industry to act. Starting in 2000, major manufacturers agreed to electronically limit top speeds to 186 miles per hour, an unofficial truce sparked by one motorcycle that refused to play by the rules. The Hayabusa didn't just win the speed war, it ended it. It wasn't elegant, it wasn't polite, it was pure, unapologetic velocity. And to this day, no machine better captures the outrageous ambition of the 1990s than this beast they named after a falcon that hunts blackbirds. In a decade where limits were meant to be broken, these machines pushed the envelope of what a motorcycle could be. Some told stories of innovation, others sparked revolutions. All demanded one thing: courage behind the bars. So which one still echoes in your memory? Have you ever ridden one or dreamed of it? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Whether it's a wild ride, a garage memory, or just the way one of these engines made you feel, we want to hear it. This channel is built for those who never stopped loving the sound of speed. And if this trip back through the golden age of horsepower hit the right note, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. There are plenty more legends waiting to be rediscovered.